Hey there, pool fans. Yes, I have stolen Karl Boyes' catchphrase because I haven't got a good one yet. Suggestions are welcome, so do fire away. We've touched down in Atlantic City ahead of one of the biggest events of the year, the US Open Pool Championship. I've managed to drag Karl away from the slot machines for a few hours, so we're going to chat all things 9-ball. Karl, so many storylines, narratives, dramas riding on this US Open. Where do we start? I mean, I think it's best to probably look at 12 months ago when Carl Boyes lifted that title in Atlantic City.
Well, we start at you stealing my phrase. What's going on there?
I know, mate. I'm just
no,
not
you can have it.
guy.
You can have it just for this video. Yeah, last year, obviously, all Asian semi-finalists, and in the end, obviously, Karl Boyes winning the tournament. I thought it was a wonderful tournament. You know, obviously the first time in Atlantic City, and I thought the way Karl closed out some crucial matches last year were just phenomenal. And overall, it's good to see him back. Obviously, he's not played much pool this year in the Matchroom events, so it's going to be good to see him back and try and defend that title.
Yeah, and I think given the pandemic, 2 years where we didn't have many events, a lot of them behind closed doors, and particularly the strict restrictions in Asia, it was great to see Asian representative back at the US Open, and then we got 4 of them in the semi-finals. I mean, that was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, and obviously I was touching on Boyes, but obviously I think we've got to mention Yap as well, because he's shown a lot of promise. Chang, obviously, he won the World 9-ball Championships when he was 16 and the World 8-ball. Very similar game to Yap, I think. Both left-handers, both hit the ball very similar, very smooth on the cue, and he's come of age. Obviously, he's been to another big final as well, and he's knocking on the door, and he's going to be one of them players that sort of just comes through the pack now. And I think when he can win a big major, he's going to then go on to do what Shane's done, what Joshua's doing, and what Albin's doing.
Yeah, and across the board this year, we've got great representation, 11 Chinese Taipei players this year. You've obviously had a run-in with a Chinese Taipei player yourself back in 2015. Don't want to go on about it too much, but you almost got to the title, the US Open, against Chang. Just talk to me a little bit as someone who doesn't play pool and isn't a professional. How difficult is it to get to the top of a pile in an event like the US Open?
Yeah, it's tough, mate. It is tough. It's a grind, you come here, there's a lot of pool players from all over the world, past champions and winners of other events, and knowing that you've got to go through a field like that, you've got to overcome so many little hurdles. You need a little bit of luck, as you always do in pool. You need to have really good bottle, because at some point you're not going to breeze through one of these events. It just doesn't happen. At some point you're going to win a hill or 11-9 or something like that. So you need a lot of bottle, and I think you've got to be fit. I think back in the day you could have had a bit of a dad bod like me.
Dad bods all round.
Dad bods all round. And sort of get away with a little bit more. But I think now, the younger players coming through, and some of the older players, even Ralph Suke, Mika Imran, if you look at them, they're still into the fitness. We go to the gym now and again at the events, and you see all these players in there. So I think all that combined, you need to do all them things. And if you're not ticking all them boxes, you're just not going to win the event.
And 7 years ago isn't actually that long in pool terms, in any sport terms really, but we looked back at the field and the finishes that year, and you look at the names on the list there compared to the finishes in 2021. The current crop of top players is so young now. Why is it that their guys are so dominant now?
That's a good question. I don't think it's just a case of something has changed so they're young. I think it's just the fact that if we pick out, let's say, Joshua Filler, Fed or Ghost as the 2 young guns, even a Clint Catcher, they're both, they're early 20s, aren't they? Approaching mid-20s, as where Albion Ocean's 30, Sanchez Ruiz is around the 30 mark. I think it's just they are old between the ears because they practice like lunatics, and that's what you've got to do. If you're not putting the hours in all day, every day, you just ain't going to achieve it. And I think what people or sports people, anyone involved in any type of business or sport, they're just relentless. And I think maybe as you get a bit older, you learn, you get the experience, you think, I've not been doing things quite right. But I think them young guns, especially Joshua and Fed Ghost, they just seem to, have all that on the shoulders.
And I suppose if you see that platform as a young, aspiring pool player, and you see these 23, 24-year-olds snapping off these titles, and they, like you said, they eat, sleep, breathe the pool and don't really do anything else, I suppose that just sets a precedent for those guys to come through, that's how they should sort of treat the sport.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And obviously now Matchroom sport are involved in pool. There's a lot more events. I think when I played back in the day, there was 3. One was the Moscone Cup, so there was only really 2, and one was the Scotch doubles event, the World Cup of Pool. So there weren't really much going on as far as a tour. But now, you can look at the calendar. and you just think there's a lot of events to go for, so it's spicing up. The other thing as well I want to mention, Feder Gorst and Joshua Filler are both with pool players. Christine Tkach, Pia Filler, they love the game as much as them, so they're not going to get any earache from the missus, are they?
Not if the money keeps coming in.
Oh yeah, not if the money keeps coming in.
Exactly. I think looking at the US Open as well, obviously like you said, Matchroom acquired a lot more of those events and hold a lot of the majors now. I think when you look at the US Open, it's still widely considered, one of the biggest and best events to win, and that's considering Matchroom have 4 open pool events now, the World Pool Championship. Why is it that the US Open is probably at this stage now still considered to be harder, better and bigger to win than something like the World Pool Championship? Because in other sports, snooker, darts, World Championships, it's the biggest event to win, but for pool it doesn't seem to be there yet. Why is that?
Yeah, you're right, Jake. In other sports, that you want to be world champion. Of course, you want to be world 9-ball champion. Shane wanted to be world 9-ball champion because he'd never won it. But I think the US Open, just with the history, and I think the big thing with the US Open is all pool players who play the game of 9-ball come to America and they travel around and they play it because it's a different vibe in America. There's not snooker, there's not English 8-ball, it's just American pool. And obviously we're from England, so we actually call it American pool, really, don't we? Even though it's not called that, but that's how we look at it because we're used to watching snooker on the TV. So I think even when I come over to America, it's just a great place to come. The billiard rooms over here, the pool halls are massive. It's just a different vibe, a different world. A lot of the pool rooms have their yearly pool tournament, and it's quite a big tournament. They might pay $5,000-10,000 to the winner. So pool players always go. A lot of the Filipinos come to America. They travel around for months. There's a lot of action games. There's just so much going on here. So I think that's why it has got that thing about it where it is the biggest tournament to win, even though it's not called the World Championships. And I do believe it still edges out the world title.
You mentioned there, obviously, a lot of people call it American pool. Interestingly, though, other than Shane Van Bonen, the Americans haven't really done that well in the last 10 years. We looked at the winners list, and even Matchroom's 2 editions of promoting the US Open, he's the only American to finish in the last 16. What do you think the current crop of American players, what have they got to do to change that?
Yeah, it's crazy, really. I think the last person to get to the final was Sean Putnam, and that he lost to Darren Appleton. And the year before, Darren beat Corey Jewell in the final. And obviously, I don't think Sean plays that much now. Corey Jewell might still travel around America. We're sort of still waiting for that next USA player, aren't we? It's all Shane Van Bonen. Skyler's threatened a little bit, not quite done it. Billy Thorpe, maybe just under Skyler's radar a little bit. And I don't know. I think maybe now is the time it's going to start happening because, as we've said, I've noticed this year at the other Open events that we've got going on, there's other Americans coming to play, and that's basically what it is. The more Americans that come, they enter. Someone's going to go deep. They're going to get the hunger, and obviously at the end of the day, when you've got Shane Van Bonen as your top man, the man who's done it all and still doing it, by the way. These young guns, they're going to be looking at him thinking, I want to be SVB. And that's just as simple as that. That is the natural progression of what will come.
Do you think the next 8 to 12 players outside of Shane, do you think they feel pressure? Because, the Moscone Cup's such a big event as well, and it's something in the last couple of years, other than the 2, wins, they've not done that well in. And, I think, like you said, USA they're calling out for another champion like Shane to come along, but it's just not happening yet. Do you think those guys feel that pressure?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think pressure is not really a thing. I think you're born to handle stuff, or you can handle stuff. I think pressure is just one of them things where, if you look at Shane or Joshua Filler, when you're in that environment and that big match, pressure sort of goes out the window, doesn't it? Because, once you've got a few quid in the bank and you've got a nice missus, what more do you want? There's no pressure, is there? It's a good lifestyle. I mean, look at us here in this lovely suite. It's easy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So I don't think pressure... I think pressure's a thing where if you're living on the street homeless, you're under severe pressure, aren't you? So I think it will come. I actually thought it was going to be Skyler Woodward. And I still think it may well be. Obviously, he's just had a kid. It's hard to see which route he's going to go. And the other thing with Americans is they've always really stayed in America. Not a lot of them have passports. So I think now Matchroom are putting more events on. We're going to see them coming to the events. Obviously, there's the ranking. If they're high up on the rankings, they can get into the invitational events, and it will come.
I suppose another thing as well is as Matchroom look to expand more events globally, is more events in the USA as well?
Definitely, we definitely need more events in the USA, because this is the home of 9-ball pool, in my opinion. You know, it's the home of pool. Obviously, they play a lot of other games over in America that you can play on a pool table, but 9-ball is the game. You know, we've got the Moscone Cup, so we're going to feed off the back of that, and we definitely need more big events in America.
And obviously, we've got absolutely loads riding on this week with regards to the Moscone Cup. We know Shane's got one spot locked up, Phillips got the other one for Europe. I know a lot of people have been talking about the European side because those guys have been so dominant and who's going to take the next 2 spots this week. But I think it's quite interesting to look at the USA guys, to be honest.
Can we flick them on your lovely laptop? Let's have a quick look.
Little look. Obviously, the next highest ranked USA player is Oscar Dominguez.
Yeah, so Shane's in.
He's in, he's locked in. You've got Oscar Dominguez in at 35th, and then you've got Skylar Woodward at 47th, and a few guys just behind him. And because the money that those guys have earned on the rankings is, you know, not that big. Let's be honest about it. Yep. You know, we're going to get to a point this week, I think, where if some of those guys who are up there, if they start getting knocked out, you could get someone out of nowhere, like a Shane Wolford, a Nick De Leon, come out of nowhere on a good run. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I was just looking. Skylar Woodward is about 3,000 behind Oscar Dominguez. So we know Shane's in. So the next 2 players after this event will be in. So it kind of looks like if any American goes deep, there's a strong chance they're going to be in the team, which is going to be unbelievable, really, because we're so used to seeing Skylar, Billy Thorpe, Tyler Steyer. But wouldn't it be amazing if some random American pool player who never played in the Moscone Cup come here and went deep and all of a sudden he's in the team? I think that'd be incredible.
I've got to say, from my perspective as well, it's great this year to have seen some what we deem as unknown Americans travel to a lot of events. You know, it's just great to see that a lot of guys are buying into the rankings and what it means to play globally and actually be a travelling pool player as well.
Yeah, Nicholas De Leon, we've had Jeff Backley. I met him many moons ago at the IPT, and he's always said he wanted to play on a professional tour, so that's why he's been travelling. Shane Wolford, very good player. You know, it's all there for the Americans. They're going to be here this week. They're not just trying to go deep and win the US Open. They know the Moscone Cup's looming, so it's going to be a fantastic week, that's for sure.
It certainly will. And looking back to last year, I wanted just to pick your brains quickly. If you had one favourite memory, outstanding point, other than the after party, of course.
Don't remember that.
No, I can believe that, to be honest. What would be your favourite memory from last year?
My favourite memory from last year, obviously I like the fact that Judd was in it. It was a story. Obviously we felt like he was going to win a few matches, but then when he come up against Shaw, in fact that was my favourite moment, because these snooker players from England, it's an easy game, it's this, it's buckets, big pockets. It's a different game than snooker. It's not about the pocket size or it's an easy game. It's a completely different game. It's not tennis, it's not ping pong, it's just different. So the fact that Shaw drilled Trump in that match live on Sky, I really enjoyed it. One for the pool players. I
think it was a good advert for 9-ball pool, that wasn't it? Because, you know, the snooker fans at home, they were all over social media saying, you know, he's gonna walk this, and the bookies had him as the favourite to win it. I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure that guy still got a job at the bookies. Whoever priced that up, that was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, but you know, he won a couple of matches you'd expect him to win, and then a few kind of scraped through a little bit, and then obviously comes against an elite player like Jason Shaw, and really got found out, but he knew that was going to happen. I think from where Matchroom were trying to take 9-ball pool, I think that was great. You wouldn't want to see Judd, although it would be an amazing storyline, you kind of don't want to see Judd go all the way to the final for pool players, do you?
I don't. Obviously, you know, my background is pool, American pool, 9-ball pool, whatever you want to call it, and you know, I really enjoyed the fact that Jason. Listen, Judd's a nice guy, you know, super nice guy, but back last year the break was easy. So snooker players. This is the thing with pool players. Pool players have got this little like hustler in them. They know the little funky games and the things that can go on a pool table. So we know about the break and all this. So if you put snooker player in last year's event, they've got more chance of beating a pool player because the break was easy. Now this new break format, we're seeing it in the European Open. It is brutal, and players may figure it out a little bit better, but it's not guaranteed. Even if people have figured it out a little bit, you're not going to control all the balls, you're not going to control the cue ball. So now when snooker players enter 9-ball events moving forward, which I'm sure some will, it's going to be even tougher because they're going to have to actually practice a bit. They're going to have to learn the game because you've got the push-outs, the safety aspect, all that comes into it. The fact that the cue ball's got to fly around the table more, so you need to know the physics of the cue ball. So it's going to be a lot harder.
We'll touch on the break this week, so I do want to talk about that. I think it's a really important point. I kind of wanted to touch on my favourite memory as well from last year.
Sorry, I left you out.
Yeah, you did leave me hanging.
Sorry,
This is a two-way street.
I know, I feel like I'm getting grilled.
I know. I think...
What was your favourite moment from last year?
My favourite moment, Carl. I think the guys that I work with will probably rip me for this because they always say I'm a massive Carlo Biardo fan. But I think it was great to see Carlo Biardo, go all the way to the final and lift that title because, the Philippines, they're such a proud pool country, aren't they? And he's the first player outside of Efren Reyes to do it. Obviously, Alex Pagulayan has the kind of question mark because of the Canadian, Filipino situation. But to see Carlo go and do that was, it was a really, really special moment, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I know where you're going with that. I think the thing with the Filipinos, even though, like you said, Pagulayan, Filipino, Canadian, whatever, Efren Reyes, Biardo, but a lot of them have been to the final and they've lost in the final. And they've won the World 9-Ball Championships. We're talking about these two events have been the biggest majors, the World 9-Ball, the US Open 9-Ball. The Filipinos, they're always there. If you see a Filipino flag next to a player's name, you don't know who they are, and you stood there with a pool cue, you're going to have a match on your hand, that is for sure.
I love that story about playing in the Philippines and the guy cleaning the pool who's going to be a hustler and he could absolutely rob you.
Easy. And I remember, obviously we won't say too much about going over there, but we were going in the bars, having a drink. They've all got pool tables in. And you'd see they're putting the name down, chalking up. Girls are on the table playing. You think everyone can pot the ball. Like in England, if you go in a bar and there's a pool table in, no one can pot a ball or hold a cue. It just seems over there in the Philippines, everyone can just pot balls. It's an amazing place to go. And
when we look at this week's event, I think one thing that's been really impressive as well is actually we looked at the nationalities and how many nationalities represented. Obviously, we've got 97 Americans, which is amazing to see, but some interesting ones: 12 Canadians, 11 Chinese Taipei, 14 from Great Britain, and 11 from Poland. I mean, those guys always go deep, don't they? But I mean, how good's that to see?
Yeah, that is good. I mean, Chinese Taipei, we know how good all them guys play the game and girls. Good to see Chang Lin back playing, one of my favourite players. Obviously, we've got Ko Ping-yi. But that probably, listen, it's the US Open. We know there's always going to be a strong amount of players representing. Poland, is it their time? You just said 11 players, all them strong players. They do it right over in Poland. They have the coaches and the managers and all this.
I always feel like at the Matchroom events in the last couple of years that I've been involved, they get to the last 16,
we're
last
waiting
32.
out. It's like we're waiting for one of them to break through.
And they just all drop out.
Yeah.
I know
Thomas
obviously had a good run at the World Pool Champs last year, didn't he? But other than that, they kind of all get to the last 16 or quarterfinals and then they all drop away.
Yeah, and we're probably doing a bit of an injustice because we've had a World Pool Masters winner from Poland. Yeah. They've won the World Cup of Pool. But I think the big thing is because this is still new to us all, this Matchroom Pool Tour, I think what we've seen is the fact that Albin, Phillips and Shane have kind of dominated, haven't they? They've won the event, so they've always been there in the finals. I think we've been blessed this season with the finals producing the big players.
Yeah, it really has. I wanted to talk about women playing in the event as well.
I bet you did.
You know me. But only 4 out of 256 this year. And I know it's something that Emily and Matchroom have been, very vocal of and trying to encourage, a level playing field and trying to get more women in. Why do you think so few this year?
I don't know. Obviously Kelly Fisher's had to pull out because she's injured, so that would have made it 5. I just don't know. Maybe, is it a case of they know it's tough? It's an expensive competition, isn't it? You've got your hotel, the entry fee's not that big, but you've got your spends and all this. Realistically, can one of them go on and win? It's tough, isn't it? Obviously, it's like anything, it comes with money, doesn't it? If it was 15 grand to get to the last 64, everyone would be trying to get in it. There'd probably be 20 women, wouldn't it? So there's probably a combination of all that. And I think the other thing is there's been a lot more ladies events recently, as where before maybe there was lacking the ladies events, so maybe they decided, oh well, I've played then, I've got a tournament next week, so maybe it's just a combination of a few of them things. So
obviously we know the field. I wanted to ask you a question. Who do you think you're most looking forward to seeing, other than, don't give me an obvious?
I'm going to throw it to you. Right. I'm going to let you answer first, because you know your stuff with this game. You don't just work behind the scenes. Yeah, you play a bit. You've got the old cue and you have a go.
You don't want to see that.
You will see that at some point, by the way. We'll get that.
Well, we did talk about this before, and I was going to give one answer, and Karl was going to stitch me up on this. So I was going to say Fedor Gorst, and he rightly said, "Oh, that's not much of a dark horse." So I'm actually going to change. I'm really looking forward. I am looking forward to seeing Fedor play, but I'm actually really looking forward to seeing Anton Raga as well. You know, we've heard so much about him and how good he is, and you know, he plays in the Philippines, doesn't travel that much. You obviously were over in Singapore recently, and he played in the Asian APF 9-ball Open, and he had a pretty good run there, didn't he? So I'm really excited to see him in the Matchroom arena.
I've got a funny story about him.
Go on then.
I played him in the Manny Pacquiao. I can't remember if it was 9-ball or 10-ball. Whatever.
I think it's 10-ball.
Manny Pacquiao's got a tournament in his town in Philippines. So I was there playing first, second round. I can't remember. I'm playing Anthony Raga. Don't know who he is, but obviously I know he's Filipino, so I know it's going to be hard work. And something happened in the match. I can't remember what it was, but we've turned this match into the biggest needle fest you've ever seen in your life. We was hating each other.
Really?
We weren't shouting at each other, but they were just needle. Do you know what I mean? Proper needle.
Why did that
I can't remember. I don't know. But I remember walking around table and he come round. And he's only small fella, so I'm big lad. I thought, well, I ain't moving. So I just carried on walking straight. He obviously thought the same. The old shoulder barge come.
The Alicante one.
Yeah, so it was funny. And I remember it being like 3-all, 4-all. And he landed on the straight 10 to pot the ball, and he didn't roll it in. He absolutely smashed it at about 150 mile an hour with loads of right hand spin. So the cue ball sort of jumped up in air and stopped, and it was just spinning for ages. It was spinning that long. When I was getting all the balls out, I just stood and waited because I thought it was dead funny. And he would just sat there and we sort of like smirked at each other, and like we just carried on, but it was so funny. But yeah, I know what you mean. He's a young gun from Philippines. Obviously all the top Filipinos rave about him. He plays a lot of arranged games over in the Philippines. He's not scared of playing anyone. Tournament pool's a little bit different. It is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, just to throw it out there, Johan Chua. He's been travelling around America a lot. They've seen him. Obviously, he was in Singapore. He was there playing. He got to the final. I think he's a class act. He really is. The way he plays the game, easy as a fan. You know, if you're going to sit and watch somebody play pool, he's going to be the one you want to watch because he just gets on with it, the way he plays. And I was speaking to him in Singapore and he said if he plays a little bit slower, he starts to think, get a bit nervous. So he says, I'll just run around the table now. And I think he could go deep.
SEA Games 9-ball gold medalist as well this year as well, isn't he? You know, he's an absolutely unbelievable player, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is. While we're touching on that, let's have a little talk about the SVB Junior Open.
Of course, yeah, we've not spoken about that. I mean, the first time Matchroom have done something like this, you know, trying to, you know, grow the sport at a grassroots level as such. Great to see, again, loads of young American players in that as well. So what were your thoughts on that Matchroom sort of having a stab at the juniors?
I think it's important. I think it was a genius move. Why not have them? You know, because not only that, it brings a few more heads through the door. You know, the mothers and fathers will be here. But what a great moment for the juniors to come to an event like this and play a tournament. You know, I'm sure there's other junior tournaments you can play in, but to come to a setup like this where the US Open is actually being played and to play out there and be a, you know, there'll be young kids there. Listen, there's a lot of Americans in it. I'm sure they're all SVB fans. They'll be watching SVB walk through the corridor. They'll say, oh, there's Shane, and that's what moves the game forward. So that's going to be fantastic to watch. I'm going to pay a close attention to a lot of them matches myself and just see what talent we're going to have coming through. More the Americans than all the others. We've seen Rompu Rampainen from Finland.
Yep.
14, 15?
14, I think, yeah.
Beat some of these players.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Beat Skylar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Khalid Al Ghamdi, the Saudi Arabian lad, beat Skylar.
Unbelievable, yeah. How old's he?
17.
Oh, so there's going to be some good matches in that then. That's going to be fierce competition. Yeah, that's going to be.
And the final's going to be streamed on Matchroom Pool's YouTube as well. So, you know, for those young players, it's a great opportunity to get a bit of added exposure at such a young age as well. I mean, you can't really put a price on that, can you?
No, I think it's unbelievable. I think what the biggest thing for them is they're going to come here with a pool cue and they'll be like, oh, there's Jason Shaw, there's Shane Van Barney, can I have your picture? I just think it's just a great addition to the event. Yeah,
it really will. We can't wait for that. Before we go, I wanted to end it with something a little bit different and go a couple of predictions. So I've done a couple of categories. I kind of wanted to pick your brains and I'll give some suggestions as well. And the guys watching at home as well, please, you know, send us your predictions as well. We'd love to see them. So we'll start things off with the top American player. And I'm going to give a caveat. You can't say Shane Van Boening.
Fair enough.
Top USA player. outside of Shane Van Bonen.
Right, well, we'll alternate picks. I'll let you pick first, and then I'll pick first the next one.
So I'm going first for this one.
You can pick first.
I'm going to go for Oscar Dominguez. The reason I say that, I think he's really got his eyes set on the Moscone Cup this year. I've seen that he's travelled a lot, playing in a lot of events, playing a lot of money matches, just, getting a lot of practice in. I think, he's been there, done that. He's got the experience, so...
Have you been looking at the draw?
I haven't, no. This is just off the top of my head. So, yeah. I think Oscar could go for a good run with that added motivation of the Moscone Cup at stake.
Right.
What about you?
I'm going to go for Skylar Woodward. I know it sounds an obvious pick.
Outside better, yeah.
Yeah, no, but there's not a lot of Americans to pick, is there? No, I think he's not had the best of seasons. He had a good run at the UK Open. Other than that...
Premier League pool was the only other event this year that he had a semi-decent run.
Yeah, so he's shown glimpses. I think the fact that obviously he's still a new father, I think the fact that the tournament is in America, it's the Matchroom event that's on his soil, if you like. He doesn't have far to go. I think he knows the Moscone Cup's looming. I think he's the type of player it's his time to show up. So I'm going to go with Skylar Woodward.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, we'll do a top European then.
So it's my turn.
So it's your turn to go first now.
And we can pick anyone.
You can pick absolutely anyone. Top European.
Top Europe.
I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because, there's a dozen, maybe more guys that you could pick, isn't there?
I've got to go with Joshua Filler, haven't I? How can you not pick Joshua Filler?
Yeah. No.
I mean, he's had an unbelievable season. I mean, it's absolutely scandalous what he's doing. Even when he's not winning, he's getting a medal, or he's in the quarters, and he's just off the back of winning the Euro Tour just last week. So the season he's had, I've never seen anything like it.
Worth mentioning as well, obviously, Pia won that the women's event as well.
Oh, so you're picking Pia?
Well, there's another section that I'm not going to pick Pia for the top European, but yeah, it was great to see them both win.
Class, yeah.
Husband and wife winning, 2 events.
Well, that's what I was saying before. Someone like, Joshua Filler, you think, does he ever get bored with it? But they go on when they watch, like, some tournament in America. They're sat in I've seen them on Instagram. They're eating McDonald's, watching a match that's being played in America. They are obsessed with the game, and that is kind of what you need to be to get to the level of what he has achieved and the level he plays this game at.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's still got a lot to learn, by the way. He still could tighten up the safety side of his game, but then does that take away from the sheer natural ability and the flair of his game? But he's just a joke. So yeah, Joshua Filler.
His safety game's not bad either. Let's
No,
not
it's
forget,
not bad.
But by his standards,
Yes.
his attacking game, yeah, that is obviously, I can see why that's something that you could pick as something that needs working on.
And you're going
And
to
he
go...
just turned 25 as well.
Well, that's
that's
ridiculous.
Insane, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 39. I ain't got the CV he's got, and he's 25. I mean, it's scandalous. It's just ridiculous.
Hall of Fame career already, do you reckon? Locked
Yeah,
in?
I mean, no danger. Give it him now.
First
Forget about being 40. Right, Jake, who are you picking?
Top European. It is tough. I thought of a few guys, but I'm going to go with El Ferrari, FSR. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. He's another guy that's just been going so deep at everything. Won the first 9-ball ranking event of the year. Snapped off a Euro Tour as well. His run at the European was a joke, wasn't it? Losing his first match, almost out in his next match, goes all the way. Sorry, the UK Open, not the European. Yeah. Goes all the way to the final. Wins the World Cup with David Alcady as well. I just think, he's 30, 31, and he's just clicked into another gear that I don't know if people thought that he could get, but he's now shown that he not only gets to finals, he wins events as well. Yeah,
I think it's fair to say he has also had a phenomenal season. Years ago, when I used to play the Euro Tour a lot, if you drew him and you play him, you always felt like if the match stayed close, because pool sometimes doesn't go your way. So sometimes you have to dig deep and try and get a match to just stay close. And I always used to think, if I was playing him and I can keep him close, I felt like something may give up in his game. Maybe he had a few bottle issues, or he might miss a ball. Because technically, he doesn't look that great. When you look at the other top players, he looks like he's moving a lot, but when you watch the replays and the slow-mos, when he hits the ball, he sort of moves after it. So when you're watching him play live, it's all looks a bit erratic, but he has definitely found his game now. And it comes with confidence at the end of the day. Winning tournaments breeds confidence, and that's what he's doing. So he's on a high, so I can understand why he picked that. And did Joshua beat FSR last week in the final? The Euro Tour?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. So there you go.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, the talent pool is no secret in Europe, is unbelievably deep. And worth noticing, you know, so quick around the table as well. But like you said, doesn't make mistakes. Very similar to Phillips, actually. You know, they're not methodical players in the sense they know what they're going to do and they just go for it. They don't think about it too much, do they?
Yeah, and I think if a player like that decides to play a little bit slower, it can affect them. But I think as you get older, you know, Jason Shaw used to play really quick, but you can see he's slowed down a lot. He's not as quick as he used to be. So I think coming with age, that is what happens as well. So I've gone Phillips, you've gone FSR.
Yeah. So go for a dark horse now. Dark horse. Who do you fancy?
Dark horse.
Yeah.
So obviously we're going for somebody outside of
I mean, there's a few
the top 20.
Yeah.
Let's get the rankings up. Quick look at the rankings.
There's a few monsters outside of top 20, obviously. But
So we're just going to go for somebody outside of the top 20. That is the... Right, okay.
I've got my guy already.
Well, you go first then.
I'm going to go with Anton Raga again. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing him play, but he's my dark horse as well. I thought about saying Fedor, like I said earlier, but I don't think you can really have Fedor as being a dark horse. I mean, obviously the things that have happened this year with Russia, he's obviously not played in the Matchroom arena this year, but, you know, his performances on the table, he's gone to America with Christina to catch. He seems to be winning every single week in these American bar table events. You know, he started well in the...
Can you pick him now? You've already picked him.
I'm not picking him. I'm just saying he's my caveat. He's my backup if Anton Raga gets knocked out early.
No, I'm saying you've picked Raga.
I've picked Raga, yeah.
Yeah, but you've got him as your Asian.
Yeah, I can have him for both.
All right, I'll let you have him.
I'm making the rules here. I made the section.
Hey,
so
there's
I
a
make the
beer on
rules.
this. So you've gone Raga outside the top 20 to go the furthest.
Yeah.
I want to say Johan Chua, but I have picked him, so I can't. I'm going to say Chang Lin. He's ranked 34.
Yeah.
How can I not pick him?
That's a pretty safe bet, of course, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, listen, he's there. He's ranked 34. That's not my fault.
No disputing that.
Chang Lin, phenomenal player. Been to the final before as well. Class player. You know, good to see him back in this event. And along with Ko Ping-yi from Chinese Taipei, I always enjoy watching. So it's going to be good to see how he pans out.
Yeah, no, I think it's hard to disagree with that.
You forgot about him, didn't you?
I did, to be fair. I'm a little bit annoyed now. There's a beer riding on this.
Big one at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And what we got next, last but not least, top
female.
Female. My turn.
Your turn.
Top female, there's only 4. I'm going to go for Pia Filler. I'm going to go Pia Filler just because she's come off the back of winning the Euro Tour. She's here with arguably the best player in the world. Pia Filler. Simple as that.
I'm going to have to join you, to be honest.
You can't join me.
Well, I'm doing
we're picking someone to go the furthest. There's a beer on it.
It's a decider.
Oh, is it decider?
Yeah,
I'll let you have it then. Pia Filler.
Pia Filler.
Large beer.
Done. Done and done.
Done and dusted. Right. 10th till the 15th.
Yep.
US Open 9-Ball Championships, the 45th edition. First 4 days, Facebook, YouTube, Matchroom Pool. The last 2 days will be the last 16 on Sky Sports and DAZN. If you're not following what I'm saying, head over to the Matchroom Pool Facebook channel. Everything's on there. Loads more content to come. The biggest event of the year is about to go down.
See you there.